First is I'm a horrible reader. I cheated in my alphabet test with Sister Sheila, and I had 6 weeks to go, and she found out I didn't know the alphabet. You should have seen her face. I flunked second grade, and all I remember is Sister Sheila paddling the hell out of me. Then, in third grade, I had to go to Hollywood, and this lady, Dr. Paul, there were 8 kids in the class. 2 were 18 years old. I'm 9, and I kept thinking, now, this seems a little odd for me in school with 19-year-olds. But evidently, if you have severe learning, like out of the birth canal issues, you can't raise your head. And I was in the backyard, and I said, oh, look at that airplane. I was 9 years old, and they couldn't raise their head. And I thought, why am I in school like this? So didn't belong there. Then I went to a memory school in Crenshaw. Then I went to an eye doctor 3 days a week, and they'd look at stupid little eye circles and dilate my eyes. And then I finally found Dr. Herr and Dr. Kaywood. They taught me how to read. And my parents said every word I ever read cost them $50. And I was expelled from John Burroughs Junior High in LA. Anybody know John Burroughs Junior High? I was expelled. And the vice principal told my mother, oh, maybe Mrs. Orfalea, if Paul really applies himself, he can learn to lay carpet. And my mother said, I just think he can do more than lay carpet. But I graduated from high school 8th in the bottom of my class at 1200. So that's an advantage. Second advantage is I have no mechanical ability whatsoever. I don't know how to fix a thing. I don't have computers. I don't know how to do stick shift. And why was that an advantage? Because when I bought these Xerox machines, I didn't want to buy a machine. I knew I could sell what came at the end. I mean, wasn't that an advantage, not knowing how to run a machine? And just saying I could sell what comes out of it? Think about it. Wasn't I buying copies, not copiers? And so I was lucky to have that perspective. Then my other advantage is I'm extremely restless. They call it ADD, but I just get bored easily. And why was that an advantage? Because my job at Kinko's was going store to store to store, looking for what people are doing right. Can't I make a lot more money looking and discovering an idea or somebody doing something right, or hovering in that office about the bottom 10%? Now, if you manage to the bottom 10%, aren't you always going to be over-managing? But I always wanted to understand why the top 10% were so successful, and I figured I could always deal with the bottom 10%. And no matter what you do, you're always going to have the bottom 10%. So let me ask y'all a question. I'm not getting paid, so you just got to do one thing for me. Put up your hands if I ask you this really difficult question. Can you handle it? Please. How many of you can work or go to school an hour a day? Put your hand up. Don't have to check other people. This is not a complicated, this is really simple. Keep your hands up, please. How many can you work 5 hours a day? 8 hours a day? 12, 14, 16, 18, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week? Okay, 20, 22. Okay, what's interesting is your savings works 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, doesn't it? I mean, you put money in the bank and they pay you so much, you don't do anything, you just go to sleep and it's more interest, isn't it? And your ideas work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, don't they? For an example, in San Diego, we had these people doing calendars. You ever seen one of our calendars? You take 12 little pictures and you put them on a calendar. We sold them for like $29. I think they cost us no more than $1. Was that a cool idea? Now, could I have, if I didn't go to work for 2 years, could I have bet more money just discovering that one idea or hovering in that office? An idea is making a lot of money. So I think you should maybe, in addition to, you want my advice for everybody? Take an hour a day of being stupid. Don't be productive an hour a day, any day of the finals week, anything. Just take an hour to yourself, wander, take a walk, and think, hey, wow, what's really going on there? What did I learn today that kind of applies to the real world? Just don't be so serious an hour a day. I was lucky. I couldn't take things too seriously, so I was always wandering and wondering. See, I was never capable enough to do things competently. I can't write a letter, can't fix a machine. Isn't my motto, anybody else can do it better? Aren't I correct? Am I capable to do too many things in this planet Earth competently? No.
But you indicate in your book that your dyslexia and dyslexics typically have greater empathy for people. Did that influence the way you treated people that you worked with and your partners and employees at Kinko's?
I don't think unless you have empathy, you can understand where your customers are going. You only really do three things in business. It's very simple. Don't make it too complicated. If you're not motivating your workers, understanding your customers, or balancing your checkbook, that's all you do. So to understand your customers, you have to be empathetic to understand what the hell what are they really asking for? And your workers, my whole business, I sold this business to these bozos in New York. And we went to dinner one night, and they asked me my biggest competitive advantage in our old business, Kinko's. And I said, well, you know, it's a sparkle in our workers' eyes. And they all looked at each other like typical Harvard and this type elitist school types. Who's this bozo? But it really was the only advantage I had in business, was the sparkle in my workers' eyes, wasn't it? So, but you tell that to the elitists of the world, they'll look at you like, earthy people, workers. You want I want another one about these elitists? I was always in school with the extra credit people, like there's the extra, the remedial people, and I was always down here, and all these what do they call those students?
Gate students?
Gates, or the better reading groups and all that. They were always in this little group. So as I go on my academics, I'm always with the people here. And all these elitists go to their little high schools, their elitist colleges. And I'm always here with these people. And I always thought these people were idiots that were so disconnected from the real people. And I think there's an arrogance to elitists in education. They don't know what it's like to be a real human being and what their struggles are. So I was always lucky, because I was maybe with the, I would call them more real, maybe just the real people that have a rough time making a living.
It's a very interesting perspective. Paul, I'm just wondering, you started in 1970, you started in this 100 square foot spot in IV. Was there a moment in time when you realized that you were on the verge of building a multi-billion-dollar business? I mean, was there that kind of epiphany?
No, only when I cashed the check, when I sold the business. No, I was never allowed myself to be confident. I cashed the check. We bought this expensive TV cabinet once, my wife and I. And I was very aggravated every time I looked at this cabinet. And I cashed the check, and it's the first time I ever felt like I owned anything. You know what I mean? You owe so much money to the banks and all of that. No, I don't, unless you get financial security, you can't take yourself you can't take yourself too seriously. Then I finally got a little bit of, but if you're in business and you don't think somebody's going to wipe you out in the heartbeat, you got problems. There was always somebody to wipe me out, and they didn't care two hoots or a damn about me and my family. They would just like to step on me. Isn't that true in business? You know what Ray Kroc said about competition? If they were drowning, I'd put a hose in their mouth. But it's true. I mean, it sounds cruel, but it is. Somebody is out to take it from you. And I was always across the street from somebody that wanted to wipe me out. And you can't imagine. I was raised in an environment. My dad made women's clothes. And you can't imagine a more cutthroat business than manufacturing women's clothes. And I remember one time we had this really cool style. It was called a picket fence. My dad had this dress. And within 2 weeks, they knocked it off. They were able to do it and took out his advantage. He was so elated about the picket fence, and then he was all depressed because they took it away from him. But it's really like that in the garment business.
So we read a lot in academic textbooks today about the importance of establishing a vision. Did you have a vision in 1970 of what you wanted to